Good morning, everybody.
Good
Welcome to
morning.
Coffee with Jen and Sharon. I'm Sharon.
I'm Jen.
We're both editors at Your Teen. We realized that, not everybody who's here has joined us before, so we want to make sure we know that, we're coming from Your Teen. But for coffee, we just usually chat about issues related to teens and our lives and the ups and downs
on our lives that day. And if you're new, if you haven't joined us before, give us a shout out in the comments. And if you are a regular, we always like to hear from you too. So
yes.
Basically everybody, we like to know you're out there. Otherwise, we think we're just having coffee with each other, which, by the way, would not be the worst thing. I love having this Sharon every week. It's like the highlight of my week. I look forward to it.
But it's even better with your comments because we like to feel like we're part of a group and that we're all in this together. And today we're talking about traveling with our teenagers and tweens, middle schoolers, that sort of thing. And
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
What's that?
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes. And I feel like there's a lot to say about this. I was thinking about it. And there really is. It is so different from when they were little, for better and worse.
Right. Like, okay, let's just start with what's better. Nobody, no diaper changing.
Yes.
Remember, and nobody, like, most of the time they've outgrown their car sickness too by the time they're teens. Not 100%. We have one that still gets the front seat because she gets a little sick to her stomach. But I mean, I remember a trip that took us, it should have been a 7-hour car ride and it took us 14 because we just had to keep stopping and stopping and stopping. And you just want to cry. You think you're never going to get there.
Did you ever have a baby who would just cry and cry because they don't understand why they're in the car for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And it's miserable.
Yeah, it is. It's miserable for everybody. Nobody likes that trip at all. So yeah, maybe the bright side is, sure, maybe they don't talk to you because they plug into their headphones, but the good news is now you can listen to podcasts in the front or NPR without them complaining about it. So
I guess that's true. Yeah. And we used to have to do other things too. Like when we were traveling, you have to bring all this gear with you. I don't know if you ever flew with your kids and had to rent the car seat and the car, and then go to hotels and ask for a crib and this and that.
Yeah.
There was one memorable time, which I'm just remembering now, where we went to a hotel. We were in Arizona, and it was like, there were a lot of hotels around, but it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. We were ready to stop for the night. And my husband had done all the checking in. I said, well, do they have like a pack and play or something? He said, oh, I forgot to ask. I'll ask. They didn't have any. So at that point, we were not ready to leave. And we thought, well, we can put the 9-month-old in a dresser drawer. We'll just pull it out and put it in bed. And that worked. But, now we don't have to deal with that at least. So that's the good thing. We don't have to cart the strollers and the car seats and the diapers and all that stuff. But a lot
less gear, definitely.
What's the downside?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that I didn't even do this on purpose, but in honor of our discussion of traveling, I happened to pick out one of my favorite mugs this morning, which is a map of the London Tube system. It says, you can't beat the system. I was a student there in the late 80s, and there was a big push in the London Tube system to not jump the turnstile and cheat the fares. So it was a double entendre about you can't beat the system. I, of course, never cheated on my tube pass.
Of course you didn't.
Maybe once. But that reminded me of a time that we took our kids. We were fortunate enough to be able to take our kids for an overseas trip, which was fabulous. And I totally recommend it. I think teens are a great age to do that with if you have that opportunity to travel anywhere outside of your culture, even if it's just, across the border from wherever we are. It's very eye-opening if you can. But I have one funny recollection that really wasn't funny at the time, which was within one 24-hour period, one of our kids, who I think was maybe 14 at the time, had the highest high and the lowest low. Like she went from one day, she said, this is the most magical day of my life. I'm having the best time. I cannot believe this is like a dream come true. And within 24 hours, she had said something to us along the lines of, I hate this family and I never want to be a part of it. And I don't want to see any of you ever again. So there you go. There's the highs and the lows within one 24-hour time span.
And those things are out of your control typically. Like, it's not like, I'm sure you didn't do something that caused the high or the low.
I mean, probably we exacerbated it, but I actually was able to diagnose the problem, which, and it, most travel, when there's trouble, comes down to one of three things, some combination of them. A little too much time together in a confined space, whether it's a car or a hotel room, especially if the weather isn't great. Poor sleep, which was a factor in this one. There was a bad hotel room. It was, either too hot or too cold, and the bed was lumpy, and she had to share with a sister, and one of them got the good bed, one of them got the bad bed, and not feeding them in a timely fashion.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, you could see the slow motion train wreck coming, but nothing you could do about it. It was too late. So yeah, there you have it. How about you?
That one has not changed. What's that?
What have been your experiences? You traveled recently, so tell us.
I did. I mean, first of all, let's stop and take a pause and say how wonderful it is to even be talking about travel.
Okay.
Now, this was not typical travel. We drove 11 hours to rent a house that we were not planning to leave unless we could be outside, eating outside or doing outdoor activities. So it wasn't like we were, doing public transit and museums or, indoor things. So it was different in that way, but it did cause us, I was a little worried one day in because we ran into a serious feeding problem. Very early on, because we had gotten there and we didn't have food yet because we were going to go to the grocery store and get some food because, we were going to be based at this rental house for a while. But we hadn't had a chance to do that. So we went to this place where we were going to wait outdoors for a table. It was a beautiful day. We were able to sit outdoors and wait for our table. After 45 minutes, these clouds suddenly rolled in. And we thought we're going to get drenched. And here's where COVID became a problem because normally we just move inside. Couldn't do that. Couldn't drive to another restaurant. But we had hungry teenagers. So one in particular, I think, is in growth spurt mode because they're always hungry. Mm-hmm. And we sort of tease this kid about it. It doesn't matter how fast how recently it happened. It's like having a toddler again. This is the one thing, that I used to have to carry purse snacks for the one whose little tummy couldn't make it.
I still do that. I recommend
maybe
still do that.
Maybe it was you that was cranky on some of these trips too. No.
Oh, without a doubt. My husband will tell you that. Yes.
Anyway, long story short, then there was an argument over what takeout we should get because our option then was to get takeout and take it back to the rental house. And not everybody's going to be happy with that choice. And it was such a saga and it wasn't fun for anyone, but, and I'm not sure it was because they were teenagers, it wouldn't have been that much more fun if they were little, or if we were all adults, we all would have had to wait. So we're not trying to give them a hard time for that.
But they may be a little less aware that that's contributing to their crankiness, and they're more, I think that they think we have all the answers. Have you ever noticed that when you travel with your kids, they already think you know the lay of the land? And I have to always remind them, I'm new here too. Yeah. None of us knows where the grocery store is or where to eat. When you first land someplace, their first question is, where are we going to eat lunch or dinner or whatever?
Oh, I know.
And I'm like, great question. Let's all get our phones out and do some Yelping because I have no idea. Let's find it out together.
Now that is a question I have for you. Now that your girls are older, the latter teen years and college age, mm-hmm. and do they help you plan and navigate and things like that now?
I don't think so. Though that's something we should do more of with them. I think. Oh, it's it's in Cleveland. Here's how you can.
Sorry, everyone.
That
might happen again. I'm just warning you.
Oh yeah,
it might happen again.
That brings me to something else I was going to suggest. I think is a really good thing to do with teens, especially older teens, is to remind yourself you don't have to do everything together, especially if you're someplace where it's safe enough for them to go off on their own. I'm a big fan of giving them a couple 20s and saying to the two kids and saying, okay, you guys go figure out what you want to have for lunch. We'll meet you back here at, set a designated time, and let them figure it out a little bit, because I hate being the one I don't want to be Julie McCoy. I don't want to be the one who says, we're eating at this place this day, and then we're going to do this, because then if they don't like it, it's all on me. So as much as you're able to give them a little bit of agency when you travel, they have a full smart computer in their pocket at all times, most of them. And so they have all the same tools at their disposal that we do. But if I'm there, it defaults to me. If I'm not there, if I remove myself from the equation, they have no choice but to figure it out on their own. And I know they're perfectly capable of it. So that's
a little sense of adventure too then.
Yeah.
So by the same token, we have let our kids stay behind sometimes, because they just get sick of participating in the family activity.
Yeah,
so there were a few times. What?
Who can blame them?
I guess so. Yeah. Can we do that? Are we allowed to opt out?
Are my kids allowed to, or was I allowed to?
No, are we parents allowed to?
Or are we allowed
sometimes?
to? Yeah, that's a great one. I think the only time it ever happens is when we're mad and we go off in a huff, and that's not really modeling great behavior. But sometimes that feels like the only way we have to extricate ourselves, is to say, "I'm done. You figured it out for yourself." I'm sure that.
But when we were away last week, there was one time. So the oldest did opt out of a couple of things, which was fine. He was old enough to stay at the rental house. And then there was at least one time where both of the teenagers opted out. So we had a nice dinner alone with our 10-year-old, which never happens.
Right.
She still likes us.
You and I are both the youngest of 5. So how many times did we get to be the only ones to have alone time with our parents? Not till the older ones went off to college, probably.
That's what I was going to say.
And by that time, you're at that age where you're like, I'm going to have dinner.
I don't want it anymore.
Right. So I think that's really actually a great thing.
Yeah. And then they still get that, they get that sense that they're bigger and they're doing their own thing. They're feeding themselves dinner or whatever it might be. One other thing that has kind of been helpful is that one of our teenagers in particular has always been helpful with navigating.
Oh, great.
Yeah. He's just really into maps and how to get around places. So he started butting in and arguing with us, and we're like, no, that's not right. Of course, we're all new to the place. And then we were proven wrong a couple of times. And then we're like, actually, can you help us figure this out? We're going to delegate this to you. Can you tell us which way to go? And it worked out really well.
Yeah, they need to earn their keep. Come on. That's only fair, right?
And it is that chance for them to be the expert. I'm always looking for times when, because we're always saying no, or we're always saying, I know how to do it better. If there's any chances we can have to say, hey, what's the best way to do this? And they really are helpful. I just love grabbing those opportunities.
Sharon, if you don't know this about Sharon, she is on a mission to help us raise capable kids. And it's all about developing their efficacy. And so I love when you have these little nuggets of wisdom about things that parents could think about, like how do you reframe it so that it's just an opportunity for them and it's benefiting them, but maybe they don't have to know that that's why you're doing it.
Not every time, no. But I am kind of obsessed with that. It's true. Because I think that kids can often do a lot more than we think they can. They love to do things once they feel confident about it. They don't love it when you say, can you empty the trash?
No.
But you're so good at it.
Nobody.
The only one who knows how to empty the trash so well.
Oh yeah, They sometimes they get onto you when you lay it on a little too thick. You have to be more subtle. So, what are some other examples of things that have either gone well or not well when you've traveled with your tweens and teens?
Well, There was, okay. So I have to admit, my kids have been pretty good with sightseeing because a friend of mine, I have some anonymous stories from friends.
Okay,
So
good.
one friend took the kids sightseeing and they just had no interest in anything that was historic or a building or anything. And they just grumbled the entire time. And in that case, they were overseas and it was like, this is a big deal. This is an expensive trip that we planned for and saved for. And you're supposed to appreciate it, darn it.
Oh my God.
And the kids just hated everything. And then I have another friend where the grandparents, it was another fancy trip. The grandparents took the whole family on a trip.
Yeah.
And my husband asked the daughter when they got back, what was your favorite part of this trip to Italy? And she said, totally deadpan, the plane ride home. She didn't.
Oh, ouch. Oh, that's so painful. And I will say, I think at one time on the trip that we had, some words were uttered by one parent to the effect of, we are spending so much money on this trip and we're doing this instead of our kitchen. And like, we just want you to appreciate it. And that's not a winning argument. You can't help it. I mean, this is how we feel. And sometimes those words come out, but they don't have any concept of, what you've sacrificed for this to happen, nor did I. I mean, when my parents packed 5 of us in a station wagon and took us across the country to see the Grand Canyon, do you think that we were just singing happy songs all the way and being wonderful campers? Of course not. We were giant pains in the ass about everything. I don't like this brand of peanut butter you bought at those King Supers or whatever. Kids are just going to be kids and they are not going to appreciate it in the moment. But I look back on those trips and they were so enriching and they were fodder for family stories we still tell. Sometimes it's like so many things in parenting. You're going to reap the rewards way, 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 way down the road, and so will they. So you kind of have to suffer through some of the indignities of.
I co-sign all of that. I mean, we were pains on trips that were carefully planned, usually by my father, with no appreciation and lots of teasing of him, which he hated.
Yes.
And we loved the trips. I mean, so.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my sister was just in town and we were reminiscing about a trip that we took, that trip where we took out west, and we were laughing still. And my poor father, he's the butt of most of these stories, laughing about him jumping off a raft, thinking the water was going to be much deeper than it was, and it was only up to his knees. And we were just, the poor guy probably could have, compressed his spine doing this. But what do we remember about that trip? How hard we laughed at him when he did this. So, I guess our role is to not mind it when we have to be the butt of the joke sometimes. And that can be hard.
And, to be grateful for these trips, even though, like the old Onion article says, mother resumes parenting duties at the beach instead of home or something like that. Sometimes
the photo like that. Her doing the dishes at the sink. Yeah,
yes.
That one. I think I have that article memorized line for line. It's funny because it's true. And our mothers and fathers were the same, and we didn't appreciate it at the time, but we do now. We just have to hang in.
We're wishing that many of us are going to be able to get a change of scene this summer, even if it's driving 50 miles somewhere or 10 miles or taking day trips or whatever it might be, just something that is that we can do as a family that takes us out of our routine. Hopefully we'll get some of that.
I'm just excited to see something other than my backyard, which I do like my backyard, but I've been looking at it for a solid year now. So yeah, anything, if you're doing anything fun or planning a trip of any kind, we want to live vicariously through this experience with you. So let us know what you're looking forward to. We also want to hear if you have any great tips for traveling with teens.
Yes, please.
Share them. My number one is pack snacks. That never gets old, really. It really doesn't. And I will say, I have one kid who, according to my husband, I'm the same way, but she'll say, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. And then 30 seconds later, I'm starving. When are we eating? The switch flips. So be prepared. Be a good Girl Scout and be prepared. Pack snacks.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you next week.
Yeah, tell us if you have anything you want us to chat about. We have very little agenda, so we're happy to.
Your agenda is our agenda.
Exactly.
We're here for you.
Yes.
So tell us.
You all.
All right. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.